All right, we're back here on Go Big Orange Friday. No Ethan Stone. Ethan Stone is in parts unknown. He's done all of his hard work getting Deshaun Bishop to the University of Tennessee. He's still recharging his batteries after a 2-year effort to send Mr. Bishop to the University of Tennessee. But in lieu of Ethan, we've got a first timer here. How should I frame this? Another man who makes me feel extremely old here at the University of Tennessee, Jack Foster. Jack, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. I've heard a lot of good things, watched a lot of good things on this podcast. So excited to finally be here and doing well in Miami, living it up. Excited it's game day.
Is it warm yet, or is it still a little bit
yeah.
chilly? Okay.
It was I think it was the coldest game in Dolphins history on Sunday on Christmas. It was like 45 degrees, but it's warmed up since then. It's about mid 70s every day. Like, really can't get much better.
Are you a beach guy or no?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I'm not a beach guy. Ryan, I feel like you're not a beach guy. If I'm going to guess, Ryan Schumpert, who's also here, Rocky Top Insider. Are you a beach guy?
I would probably be in the not a beach guy category. I wouldn't say like I'm a beach hater. Like my family will go a lot, and I'll go down there a couple of days. But
yeah,
I prefer to be golfing or doing something, being in the mountains.
How about golfing on the beach? Golfing on the beach. It's the best of both worlds.
Well, I haven't actually tried that before. Outside of some courses that maybe come close to touching the water, but anything I can think of is the bay, not the actual ocean. So yeah, golf on the beach. Maybe that's just the way to go.
I've never golfed on the beach either. That's probably something I need to do. But I think the beach was done for me. Like I'm gonna be at war with the beach and the ocean for the rest of my life. My wife tans very easily and loves the beach and would live on the beach if she could. And my complexion does not really work for constant beach. At 31, you got to protect yourself even more. Like I'm a long sleeve shirt, like a comfortable long sleeve shirt at the beach kind of guy. And there's nothing that makes you feel more washed and more out of your element than being in Miami or something with a long sleeve Columbia PFG shirt where you're like, I can't have fun like the rest of the kids because I don't want skin cancer.
I'm the same way. I burn like crazy, but I just deal with it, and I don't care. Like, you just got to embrace it. There's no shame in those long sleeve shirts. I do the same thing. So
yeah, see, maybe I need to see. This is why you're here, Jack, to help me get through this, work through these personal limitations. So, speaking of limitations, Joe Milton is going to.
To quote Deion Sanders, now that was a good one.
Joe Milton is going to be the quarterback here on we're taping this on a Friday morning. Tennessee plays in a little less than 12 hours from now. And look, one of the weirdest things, and I wonder from y'all's perspective if you share this, because I was talking to Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South about this yesterday, and something that I think everyone here in Knoxville, and you talk to any media folks or any fans about Joe Milton, it's like everyone is grateful for him sticking through it for 2 years. Everyone wants Joe Milton to succeed. And then it's like, okay, let's move past those 30 seconds of pleasantries. Like, let's move past that part of it because he's a good dude by all accounts. Him and Hendon are cool. He's helped Hendon Hooker a lot. Talent's all there. And you're like, okay, can we stop just starting these conversations that way? Can we move forward just a little bit? And then we're like, but honestly, do you see this going well? Do you see this actually going well? And everyone's like, well, no. And no one wants to say that. Everyone is just like, this could be the start of a Heisman campaign next year. Everyone wants to say that. And I'm like, that's not what's happening here. We're not going from Hendon Hooker Heisman to Joe Milton Heisman. You know what we saw in the Vanderbilt game, the overthrows and everything else. You know that this is still just, it's never going to all add up. Like, deep down that Nico Iamaleava is not sitting on the bench for a full 12 games next year. Like, at your core that is not how next season's going to go. That, like, this is probably going to be rough tonight. Like, I hate that pit in my stomach where I'm like, I just feel no Hyatt, no Tillman, no Jeremy Banks. I'm just looking around like this. we all feel it, and no one wants to do it because the season's been great, and you go 10-2, and everyone wants Joe Milton to succeed, and everyone at the pit of their stomach is like, I don't feel it. Do you share that sentiment, Jack?
Probably not as much as it feels like you do. I am a little bit more of a believer in Joe Milton. I know Ryan and I have had discussions, and it was before the Vanderbilt game actually, and I was optimistic about Milton playing Vanderbilt, given he had so much time to improve in Heupel's system, and it frankly, yeah, it didn't happen. Now the weather wasn't good; it was rainy and just muggy, and they ran the ball, and they were able to run the ball at will, so there wasn't a huge need for Milton to throw the ball. I mean, it's 56-0, but yeah, still the overthrows he made can't give you much confidence. He has had another month to prepare, but with a defense like Clemson's, I don't have a lot of confidence in Joe Milton. Although, in the same breath, I will say he is the X factor for Tennessee tonight. If he can make those throws, Clemson's defense, if they're going to get got anywhere, it's on the back end, it's in the secondary. So if Milton can make those throws, if he really has turned a leaf in the month of December somehow, then Tennessee may very well win this game. But that's wishful thinking for sure. And if you're talking about long term, I feel what you're saying with Nico ending up taking over the starting job. I feel like that's probably what's going to happen. But hey, man, if there's an opportunity for Milton to get a leg up on the competition, show what he's made of, and show he can be the guy, it's against Clemson right now.
Also, he's gonna love. Ryan, you remember when I first got up here in 2020, like being in the stands when Joe Milton was overthrowing guy after guy in the Pitt game at home, and I was just around so many people who were just shouting and losing their mind for Harrison Bailey. Like we're just
I
like,
was
how
about
is
to say
Harrison
it had to
Bailey
be
not?
Harrison Bailey who they
Yeah,
wanted.
how is he not in this game? Can you I don't think anyone's prepared, and this is part of the reason that Tennessee I think is going to struggle getting a big name transfer, and why they have to this point is that who wants to be in front of Nico right now? Maybe the highest profile 5-star quarterback in this class, where like any wrong move, this fan base is going to be screaming for Nico. The first overthrow from Joe on that Thursday night opener, we're like, all right, what are we doing here? Are we really running it back for year 3? What are we doing? And the Nico chants are going to be insane. Like he's just there's so much oxygen. I saw him in Old City the other day, and he was with his dad, and you could just see people just like look around. They just stand out, and like kids are dapping him up and like trying to find him. Like it's just he's a celebrity. Like he is the biggest celebrity in Knoxville, and I don't see that going well for any transfer quarterback like Spencer Sanders like coming in. It's like I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with somebody like, and it's not Nico's fault. None of this is Nico's fault. It's just the gravity of bringing in someone of Nico's pedigree and caliber. I don't think it's going to be fun, and I think Joe is just going to be under fire no matter what. Even if he's good in this game, it's just any bad throw or any misstep by him next year, it's just going to be Nico, 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 because that's how fans are wired, and it's especially how Tennessee fans are wired.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts, and
Mhm.
first I want to say thanks for we're just diving right into next year's quarterback room, because that's really when you're talking
Yeah.
about what you care about in the Orange Bowl tonight, it's how Joe Milton plays, because what does next year's quarterback room look
Mhm.
like? So we haven't even gotten to the discussion of why this is the reason.
Mhm.
I guess my first thought is I think that's why you started this whole thing. You were like, everyone says Joe Milton's such a good guy. I think that's why you just said is why, because everyone knows. Everybody hated this guy last year. He
Yep.
ran out of bounds on the last play of the Ole Miss game at the 7-yard line. And he has, through goodwill, through being a good teammate, he has been a good citizen in Knoxville. He has endeared himself to people. And I think all the media people know that just what you just said. The first time he overthrows people next year, everyone's going to want Nico, and he's going to be hated. I think that's why you get that kind of perspective or outlook on it from media people, because they know the other shoe is going to drop if Milton struggles. And all we've seen to this point is Joe Milton struggle in any games that he's had to play when it's competitive. I don't agree with your thoughts on the transfer portal as much, especially if you get a guy like Sanders who just has 1 year. I think that is one. I think Tennessee seems pretty content to not add a quarterback and to just roll with Milton and Nico. And I think a big reason because of that, and the bigger issue you get with the quarterback is quarterback's an NIL venture in the transfer portal. If you're going to get a top one, they're invested their NIL capital at quarterback and Nico. So I don't think they have the resources to go pay what it's going to take or have the deals what it's going to take to get an elite quarterback in the transfer portal. And again, they've showed a lot of confidence besides that they think they can just roll with Milton. But no, I think besides that, everything you said is right. And I don't see – it's hard to see a path next year to Nico starting game one because Milton is the guy who's paid his dues and because his teammates like him and because he's whatever he's going to be, a 24-year-old in his 6th year of college football. And Nico is the opposite of all those things. At least he hasn't going to have had a whole lot of time to win his teammates over. But I think you're right. It's hard to imagine a scenario next year where Joe Milton starts all 12 games for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Unless there's some radical – unless he turns the corner, unless it puts everything together, which you can't rule out, but there's certainly a lot more to indicate that's not going to happen than there is to indicate that it will happen.
And that's the most significant part about this game for Joe Milton is that he doesn't have a lot of room for error because if he struggles in this game and if he struggles a lot, then it's going to be sound the alarms. Let's get Nico in there day one, right? And I think even if he has a bad night, it won't matter. Like Joe Milton will still start game one, assuming they don't add a transfer portal guy. But as far as Tennessee fans' perspective is concerned, as far as what you were talking about, Chase, definitely imperative that Joe Milton has a decent night tonight in the Orange Bowl just to get that off his back, to get the pressure off his back. And Tennessee fans will be okay with moving with Milton game one, and then you just go from there.
You want to lose a fan base quickly. It's like if Milton just implodes tonight and you're like, and he stays and the whole offseason is about like, look, we're committed to Joe. Like fans with that amount of offseason and that amount of time to be like, are we really just going into the spring giving like that is 1000%. The comment section for every UT message board and everything else is like, we can't be serious. This is not a serious conversation we're going. And even if it's fair or not. So it's like the pressure for Joe to do well is so imperative. I think it's more imperative for the fans and the coaches because the coaches have said, like, wasn't it Halsey this week? It was like, it's going to be an open competition in the spring. Like, it's not Joe's job, and it's not going to be Joe's job depending on how he does today. Like, we're not going to let that influence which way we go for the fall. And that's also like we need to allocate just some NIL money and just like the Taven Jackson stay at all costs fund where it's like just whatever it takes. We don't ever actually want you to be the starting quarterback. We also just never want you to leave barring injury. So like what is it going to cost to just keep you happy and enjoying your Knoxville life? Because you were compared to Jordan Love on 24/7 Sports when you came in. How about you just fulfill that prophecy of what Jordan Love has done in Green Bay and just be the permanent backup to Nico and or Joe for 4 years, and then you go as a grad transfer to somewhere else and ball out for a year at Utah State? How about you do that? That would be great. So I would. This is just an idea. Spire Sports, whoever, if you want to run with this of just the NIL backup quarterback subsidiary of the collective, I would highly emphasize investing a lot into that because not everyone can be Georgia where you're just stockpiling these 5 stars and for whatever reason they're just not leaving yet. I don't know what in terms of actual game plan. I think the biggest concern I have is actually not even Joe. It's Jeremy Banks is not playing in this game, and we'll see what the linebacker play looks like. But the last time we saw this Tennessee defense without Jeremy Banks was quite bad. So I think that's an under talked about point too. Ryan, when you look at this defense without Jeremy Banks tonight, how do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And I don't think it'll be as glaring a loss as it was in the South Carolina game. And that's probably the most generic statement ever because the defense played as bad as possible in the South Carolina game. Jawan Mitchell looked like he was out there playing in slow motion, and you're like, wow, you could really use Jeremy Banks out there. I think this is going to be a game where Clemson's going to be able to score in the 30s. I don't think Clemson will fully lean into throwing the ball all over the yard, kind of like South Carolina did, kind of like a lot of teams have, in a lot of cases, been forced to do against Tennessee because they're down. And that I don't foresee Tennessee jumping out to a big lead in this game. I think you'll see Clemson play a little bit more conservatively, run the ball a lot. And I think that bodes well for Tennessee. That bodes well for the absence of Jeremy Banks. And I guess what I say all that to say, I don't think it's going to be great for Tennessee. I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic as people would probably worry, worst case scenario, which those concerns are fair given that we've seen it. To me, what I think his absence becomes interesting to me is I want to see what Elijah Herring does tonight. Does he get more playing time? Because he's the guy that I'm excited about for next year. And I think obviously we know Banks is gone next year. Juwan Mitchell hasn't announced what he's doing. He could be gone as well. And so Solomon Page III is gone. So there's going to be a lot of turnover in Tennessee's linebacker room. And that's really the only place in Tennessee's whole defense there's going to be a lot of turnover. So you know there's going to be a lot of new faces. Obviously a really talented linebacker class coming in. But I think Elijah Herring is the one young guy on campus that has been really promising. So I'm excited to see, one, just how much confidence, how much trust Tennessee's coaches have in him tonight and giving him some playing time. And if he does, what he's able to do when he's out there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's tough for Tennessee's defense because Clemson is a run-first offense. I mean, they have two great backs in Shipley and Maffa, and Cade Klubnik's a dual threat as well. He can beat you with his legs. And this is a guy in Klubnik who doesn't have a lot of experience. Sure, he had one really good game against North Carolina, who is a very bad defense. In my opinion, they're a worse defense than Tennessee is, even though we've seen Tennessee's defense be really bad. And the circumstances surrounding Jeremy Banks is totally different. It was a surprise in the South Carolina game. I'm sure it was little. I don't know what all happened and the details and just how Tennessee's defense outside of Banks felt about that whole situation, but why Banks isn't playing in this game. It's because of a good reason. He's opting out to go to the next stage of his career. So given the circumstances, I don't think it'll affect Tennessee's defense as much, but it is unfortunate because, like I said, Clemson's a run first team, and if you can stop Clemson's running game, I think you have a better chance at limiting the Tigers to scoring, like Ryan said, in the 30s.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the secondary looks like too, because it feels like this is the healthiest the secondary has been. Is there anyone in particular that you're really excited to see how they fare in this one, Jack?
No one in particular. I mean, it's just kind of been a carousel of who plays good on any given night in the secondary all season long. It's some nice guy like Danico Slaughter will have a great day, and then he'll just be the worst DB that Tennessee has. So it's just take your pick, really. I feel like they're probably going to need to force a couple turnovers. So if they can get a pick or two off of Klubnik, that will be huge. Kamal Haddon has been, good at intercepting the ball here and there. Safety's got to play well because Clemson's tight end game is pretty good. So no one in particular, because I just don't think anyone stands out. But you mentioned this is the healthiest they've been, and that's big because they haven't been healthy a lot. So healthy on a big game like this, that'll bode well.
I also really like just the fact that Tennessee, like you said, Jack, Will Shipley, obviously an X factor for Clemson, and this one has been great for them all year long. The thing when everyone was talking about Tennessee's defense and crushing Tennessee's defense that it was overlooked week over week is like, no, the run defense is good. Like they're a top 20-ish run defense, and they have been that way all season long. And even without Jeremy Banks in this one, I still feel like they're going to be okay with Will Shipley. Like I'm not worried about Will Shipley killing this team. If Clemson wins this game, it's because Cade Klubnik destroyed him on the outside. And Cade Klubnik was doing the Matt Corral thing on 3rd and 8 and then dance out of the pocket. Tennessee doesn't keep him inside. Byron Young, Tyler Barron, whoever just misses. And then he gets the 8 yards and another first down. And they just keep the ball and they just keep killing Tennessee with those little just stab wounds to the side. And you're just like, can we get one stop on one of these rollouts? One of these 3rd and 6 quarterback scrambles. But I don't know. I think on the offensive side, Ryan, when you look at the wide receiver rotation that it's going to be, who do you expect to have the best day with the opportunity that they have in front of them?
It's a good question because I think, to me, I don't even know how to say obvious candidates, but if Joe Milton plays well, to me, it's Squirrel White because I think Tennessee will be able to hit some balls over top if Milton is playing well. And Jack, you mentioned that that's kind of the weakness of the Clemson defense is the secondary and the ability to give up some of the deep stuff. But at the same time, we've seen Squirrel White in the screen game. We've seen him in the deep game. We haven't seen him in the intermediate game much. And obviously, Cedric Tillman has been the main intermediate guy for this team the last 2 years. Jalen Hyatt has morphed into it a little bit more in the second half of the season. But to me, I think it's got to be Brew McCoy because Ramon Keaton's going to come back, and he's going to have a big role next year as well. But Brew McCoy has that body. He's the guy I foresee in the future being the Tennessee 3rd and intermediate guy, the comeback route, run it to the sticks, run it 2 yards past the sticks, catch the ball. To me, he's that guy. And this is a game against a good front seven who you're not going to have time to take shots every single time, I think you're going to need someone like that to be good in the intermediate game. And to me, McCoy's the most obvious candidate. And I think, again, that's what makes this game exciting, and kind of what we were talking about earlier is obviously I think everyone would like to see Cedric Tillman. They'd like to see Jalen Hyatt, but it is kind of nice to, outside of Darnell Wright, this is Tennessee's, and I guess Jerome Carbon too, this is Tennessee's offense next season out there. These are going to be the guys that you're going to be seeing in whatever it's going to be 8 months when they take the field against Virginia. So it's a fun early audition or kind of early look into what this offense can look like next season. I say fun. It's Joe Milton, the quarterback. It could very easily not be fun, but potentially fun.
What do you
He
think,
plays solid, not even great. It's not that's again, I think, and Jack, you said this a minute ago. Obviously, everyone would love for Joe Milton to play great tonight. Joe Milton just needs to not be bad. He needs to put enough faith. He needs to give the fan base enough faith that, okay, this guy can be a solid starter for us next year. And I think, even if he does that, he doesn't have to be great. I think it will be certainly very interesting and kind of exciting to watch some of the things Tennessee's offense does tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if Tennessee loses by 10 and Milton plays clean and there's not any just totally head scratching plays, that'll be fine. That'll be a pass. He will pass the test, even if they lose. It's not like Tennessee has to win, because of Joe Milton or anything. But as far as the receivers go, it's got to be Brew McCoy. He matches up well against Clemson's DBs. He's got the size advantage. And against a defense like Clemson's, I feel like if you're going to win the game, you cannot be you got to be smart when you take chances. And if Squirrel White's going to have a big game, it's because you're taking those chances, right? You're going over the top, but you got to be smart when you do that. It's got to be just on the second and short situations, maybe on some first down play calls, because you got to have high percentage plays to be able to put together drives against a defense like Clemson's. So Brew McCoy is that guy. He's the high percentage target, right? He's going to catch a lot of balls thrown his way. He's got glue for hands. He's made some great catches this year. So to me, Brew McCoy is the receiver to watch in this game for Tennessee.
I think it's Dante Thornton when he comes out of the tunnel and you're just like, who is that? And it's just like, who is that? Because if Luke Fickell can coach the bowl game for Wisconsin when he has not been the coach for Wisconsin all season long, let's get rid of all the rules. Like, he's silently enrolled at Tennessee winter term, because we love those. People didn't know. They weren't checking Dante Thornton's just his winter class load here at UT. And he's like, I'm eligible. And he comes out of the tunnel and he's like, this is me. This is my time. Jalen Hyatt passes number 11 and he wears Jalen Hyatt's number 11 jersey in honor of his time at Tennessee.
A real A.J. Brown, Josh Dobbs situation.
Yeah. Many are saying it's fate. The same week that Josh Dobbs debuts for the Titans, the Tennessee Titans. I don't know. It feels very possible. I don't know. I think it's interesting that you said that a lot of this is like a preview of what the offense looks like next year. I don't know, because Tennessee's obviously been active in the portal in the tight end market. It looks like Jacob Bourne is going to come back, which is huge. You get the kid from UC Davis to come along with him. Ethan Davis is coming into the fold, I'm going to guess, with what we've seen from him. And he played at a really powerhouse school down here in Georgia at Collins Hill. I'm going to guess he finds his way into the scheme sooner rather than later. And then you just have so many talented running backs that, I mean, if you land Marshawn Lloyd, I mean, we'll see what happens there. When Austin Price was saying it was 50-50 on him and a couple of the other guys, it's like, I don't know. I think this offense still could look really different than what we're going to see in this one. It might be a different quarterback, multiple different linemen. They're still looking at another offensive tackle in the transfer portal. They might be, who knows if it's Mincy and or Crawford at left tackle again next year. The tight end rotation will be a little bit different. It's weird that Squirrel, or they're looking at guys in the slot, and it's not just going to be Squirrel White show, Brew and Cedric Tillman spot, and then Ramel Keaton out wide. I think they know if they can get better with at least two of those three more competition, that they would rather do that and find more bridge guys to be ready for Nathan Laycock to just grow and be just get him more time before he's thrust into a major role. But I don't know. I think my gut tells me there's still going to be one big difference in the wideout space for sure for Tennessee next year. I don't think they're going in with these three.
That makes sense.
You're probably right that there's another guy they bring in. I do think, and you kind of touched on this, to me it's been interesting. It seems like they've targeted a lot more slot guys. And I mean, you just said it. Like, it's not all completely in on Squirrel White. That doesn't mean Squirrel White won't play a lot, even if they land one of those guys. But to me, it seemed like it would be a White guy and a guy that would take Keith's playing time before it would be a guy that takes White's playing time. So you're right. I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same. I personally, again, 8 months from opening kickoff in Nissan Stadium, I don't foresee the tight end room having a much bigger role in the offense next year. I think in time, Ethan Davis carves that out. But to me, I don't see that with, bringing in McCastles from UC Davis and having Jacob Warren back. And Ethan Davis coming off an injury that cost him basically his entire high school senior season. So we'll see. But I certainly think it's going to be a lot of the same guys. And I think you're right. Probably the most interesting or maybe surprising position, the way Tennessee's recruited in the portal to me to this point, has been receiver.
Jack, your official prediction for this game, how do you see it ultimately going?
I feel like it's going to be a close first half, may even be tied at the first half. Clemson is notorious for having horrific first halves. They cannot play first half football for some reason. So it maybe even Tennessee's leading at the break, but I do think the Tigers pull away in the end. Maybe a couple of offense mistakes on Tennessee's side. I got Clemson winning 37-28.
What about you, Ryan?
I've Clemson winning 34-24. I think a lot of what Jack said, I think is pretty accurate. I see it being just a little bit more low scoring because I don't think, Milton's going to be great. And I think Clemson plays this game pretty conservatively if they lead in the second half. So we'll see. But one I give, if you can get Clemson with less than 7 points, I think you take them. I think they'll win by 10. But whatever the line's hovering around right now, I have a hard time seeing Tennessee covering, and kind of have a hard time seeing them win outright, to be honest.
I think enough money is coming on Tennessee. Last time I checked Caesars, it was 4.5 for Clemson. So it started around a touchdown. So yeah, it's come down.
That's the last number I saw too. And then I saw somewhere else that it was higher as well. So I've seen kind of a disparity in the last 24 hours of what the numbers are. But you're right. It definitely is trending in Tennessee's direction.
I think Tennessee wins. I don't think Clemson, look, Dabo may have always been NIL at Clemson University. Many forget that he was on NIL before NIL. He just had his own version of said NIL, and that's great. Cade Klubnik is what he did against UNC's defense. People compared Tennessee's defense to North Carolina's, and it's like it's a very, very different situation here. And I don't think Clemson's going to be able to run on Tennessee. And when I think about what this means to Clemson, this is like one of those. I just think it means a lot more to Tennessee too, where Tennessee wants to finish 11-3. They want to do this for Hendon. A lot of guys up and out. It helps that Jalen Hyatt will be there. I think a lot of the guys are helping this week, and Hendon Hooker obviously helping with game plan prep and all that. I'm pretty optimistic. I think that they ultimately win this game, and because of the slow start stuff that you said, Jack, I don't think Clemson can play from behind. I don't think Tennessee is in a position where I see them getting up 28-7 and then they blow it against Clemson. I think they're going to be up after the first quarter. I mean, it was a tradition unlike any other last year where you should always take Tennessee to be up after the first quarter. It's easy money. Even Georgia week, I made a big bet on Tennessee being up after the first quarter. And I think they're going to outside. I don't think Clemson's offense can keep up with them. I really don't. I think Tennessee would be favored if DJ was under center for Clemson. I don't even think it's a question that Tennessee would be favored.
I would pick Tennessee if DJ was playing.
And it's funny because it's like we've only seen a little bit of Klubnik full time. We've only seen him against the North Carolina defense full time. That's it. That's the only iteration we've seen of him as a true freshman. Tennessee is going to throw some stuff. I think they're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to try and get in his face. I think they're going to send a lot of guys and play a lot of zone coverage and try and just confuse him and send a lot of pressure his way. Without Jeremy Banks, they'll be a little bit hurt, but I mean, we know how much they rotate in the defensive line. I think some of these guys are going to get home. I think the fact that Clemson is missing multiple big players in the defensive line is going to hurt because that would be something you don't want to deal with Joe Milton early in this one, but I think he's going to have time in the pocket, and I think Tennessee actually wins. I'm going to say Tennessee 38, Clemson 23.
Wow.
I don't think Clemson's going to score that much.
You really I had to give you credit for the ability to we've been talking on here for 28 minutes And then everything you just said in your game prediction did not match up what you said about Joe Milton and the rest of the game.
That is how I see it, because like I'm such a believer in this offense. They are the number one scoring offense to this point in the country. They are still the number one team in scoring offense. That was with Hendon, great. Vanderbilt.
Yeah, this should have been Heisman and the Biletnikoff winner, who are both not playing.
I think people are just discounting Heupel's play calling, and I think we're discounting just.
I'm not discounting it. I saw it last year, and Joe Milton couldn't hit the guys open down the field.
It might not be Joe, though.
Vanderbilt, and Joe Milton couldn't hit the guys open down the field.
It might be Dylan Sampson just has a crazy night.
They're not going to be able to run the ball at will against Clemson.
I don't know.
I know that it's a three-headed monster. Tennessee's running backs are great.
Yeah.
But Clemson's run D, even without Murphy and those other guys, they're still going to be able to stop them.
Yeah. I don't know. Give me...
And I think you're underestimating Will Shipley, too. Tennessee's not shutting down him.
I think he's going to
have
a
the
rough
best
day.
backs in college football.
Jack, you heard Jack really hates the University of Tennessee. The guy graduates, he works with Greg McElroy for a little bit, and he forgets his roots. And it's sad to see. It's sad.
I picked Tennessee to score 28 points. Clemson doesn't let a lot of teams score 28. So
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be it. It's going to be weird. And then I still am not sold on the Joe Milton stuff like we talked about for the last 30 minutes. I still think they're going to win this game. I still think it's going to be, what if we get Taven in this one? What if Joe's benched or he's knocked out and we just get an ultimate Taven Jackson game? And then the QB controversy gets even crazier. That would be my favorite, is if Taven has to be inserted and it just balls out. Then you're like, I have no idea what the quarterback room looks like in the fall. Like that, we'll see. That would be the best just chaos scenario, because I think it's going to be chaos anyway.
Be the best story for sure.
Yes, it'd be the best story. So from a sports writer's perspective, I love it. And really anything that could stir the flames of competition in that quarterback room entering the offseason would be awesome, because you kind of said it at literally the very beginning of this podcast. Feels like we're entering an offseason of everybody trying to talk themselves into Joe Milton, and kind of in the classic NFL draft form of, you're not talking about him when the season ends, but by the time the combine comes around, you're looking at all the tools, you're talking yourself into it. That's kind of what I foresee the Joe Milton offseason being. So anything that takes us away from that, I'm here for.
We'll end on this. Ryan, which was your favorite of the 3 Tennessee threes on Wednesday night in Oxford? What was your favorite?
It was the transition one to tie it. Meshack with the steal, a little throwback to Vescovy. I mean, Vescovy hit all 3 of them, so I guess that doesn't do anything to specify it. But the transition one that tied the game in about, I want to say maybe 49 midway through the first half. That was it for me.
Jack, what about you? You have 2 options.
I can't pick the transition 3?
No.
That was my favorite one. I don't know. Yeah. I remember that play, and I remember Ryan emphasizing it in his article. So that's my decision.
Yeah, the other 2 weren't very noteworthy.
Yeah,
Vescovy hit one real early in the game. He hit one to go up like 7-2 or maybe 7-3, and I don't even remember when he hit his other one. So maybe the other one was Chase's favorite.
I mean, they were all my favorite equally. I love them so much. I have to go back and be like, this might be the last time I see a 3 in this game. So I got to like pause it, take it all in, and then keep going with the game. It's great. Every game is just going to be just pulling teeth to survive for Tennessee without Josiah Jordan James. I don't know. I don't know if we see him. We're getting closer and closer to like, he's just doing a bit on the sideline. He's now warming up before all these games, and he's like, nope, I'm not going to go out there.
And I'm actually curious of both of y'all's thoughts. And Ryan, I haven't talked to you about this, but yeah, the Josiah situation, it feels like Tennessee has said it's up to him, right? Like it's his call. And if it's his call, I would be fighting tooth and nail to get playing time, because to me, he's not going to get drafted if he just doesn't play this season. I really don't think so.
No,
I mean, so to me, you're just wasting opportunities after opportunities. And I know he didn't play, but he dressed out. So that's a step in the right direction, especially heading into SEC play. Maybe he plays the SEC home opener, but I don't know. I just feel like he's wasting opportunities here, sitting out these games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think not a ton of people will truly know the answer to this question, but I think if he could play, he'd be out there. I think the pain is that bad, and to me, I'm with you. I mean, it's hard for me to see not him playing again this year. I think he'll play again this year, but it's hard for me to see him playing 3 straight games at any point in the season. I mean, Jack, you were at some of them preseason. We're watching him every week, multiple times a week, and he's doing very, very little 5-on-5, almost all working on the side. And then he comes out to play the first game of the year, and he plays 3 games, and he has to, go back to the bench and start rehabbing it again. And it's like if he couldn't, with how little he was doing in the preseason, if he can't play more than 3 games on it, it's hard for me to see what it's going to take for him to be able to play extended amount of games on it. So it'll be interesting to see. To me, they need to – right now it's been such a game-to-game basis, and that's what they've said. That's what Josiah said. To me, it needs to be something they plan out to try to find 2 games in a row. You want a big 2-game stretch. You feel like he can play. Maybe that's – I think they go Kentucky, Mississippi State, LSU, 3 straight games. Kentucky at home, the next 2 on the road. Say, all right, let's do everything we can to have you ready for this 3-game stretch. Let's readdress – after the stretch is over, we'll figure things out again. You'll sit out a couple games. We'll find another stretch. To me, that's the way they need to be doing it because, again, it just seems unrealistic to think it's going to heal itself to the point he can be 100% for extended amounts of time this year. And to me, it feels like going game to game is not the most efficient way of figuring out how to get – to your point, Jack, to figuring out how to get him on the court the most amount of time.
Yeah, and I mean, health is number one priority. If it's that you don't want to risk any long-term injury or anything like that. So his health is definitely the number one priority. And if he is not ready to go, then so be it. He needs to sit out. But yeah, it does feel like for Tennessee's sake and for Josiah's sake, the sooner the better, of course.
Yeah.
I just feel like we have our own Kawhi situation where it's like, no matter what happens this year, it's like, as someone who's dealt with knee issues and I just broke my foot a couple months ago and rehabbing that, part of it's a mental thing of trusting it. Like, I don't think Triple J is in a situation where he's going to trust his knee fully this year. Like, I think that's part of this. There is a mental roadblock where you're like, I don't want to tear my ACL. I don't want to tear it. I got to be careful with how much I'm straining it. And basketball is obviously extremely hard on your knees. And you can do whatever you can pregame. You can rehab as much as you want. But once he's in games, he's still going to have to trust that knee. And he's still going to have to be like, how much pain should I play through? Because there's going to be pain. The fact, there's not going to be a point in this year where he's going to be able to avoid knee pain. And if that's the case, I don't know. Like Ryan said, he's going to have to be a 1 game a week person, or he's just going to no back-to-backs. But it's obviously they don't have that in college basketball, but it's maybe you're gone for this week and then we're rehabbing and just getting you right. And then you just go all out the other weeks, or you play every game, but you're on a huge minutes restriction where you're playing 5 minutes in the first half, maybe 10 in the second, and that's it. And we have to figure out how to maximize that time with you. I don't know. I'm pretty, it's so unfortunate because he's such a great dude and he's so important to this offense that it's gotta suck for him because he watched this team offensively without him. He's their best shooter. The team can't make a deep run without him. Tyreek Hill, you hoped would be that guy, and you're
Josiah Jordan James is Tennessee's best shooter.
Yeah, I don't know if
at the top of the key. What have I said? Do you remember Ryan? Do you remember last year when you were criticizing that Texas 3 that he missed at the buzzer? And
no,
it was the great shot
because I was not criticizing it.
And I was like, Ryan, you need to be okay with that shot because you live and die by Josiah Jordan James with that look every single time. And you were
no. And I agreed with you.
No,
but he's not Santiago Vescovi. He's not Santiago Vescovi with guys hounding him every second. You're not going to get 2 inches of separation and still shoot. He's going to still he's struggled so far this year, but I still think we'll shoot over 37, 38% from 3.
We don't know yet. Who's been the better shooter this year, Ryan? Who's the best?
I will take Santiago Vescovi's shooting production this year for Tennessee over Josiah Jordan James's.
All right, well, let's make this happen, Coach Barnes. I want to get in the gym. I want to watch them 3-point contest, just Triple J and Vescovi, and see who wins.
This is a really worrisome take.
I don't even think he's
you have said things that I have disagreed with on this podcast before. Mm-hmm. Very oftentimes you've been right. Mm-hmm. Never in those times have I been I don't see where he's coming from. Why is he saying this? This is the first time.
Nope. Here's the thing.
Who is holding it?
I'm out.
Who in the James family has a gun to James' head outside of the camera? I need to know.
I'm just saying, how many times at the top of the key are you ever concerned it's not going in? When you swing the ball to Josiah Jordan James at the top of the key, 3-point line, when are you ever concerned it's not going in? Every Vescovy shot at this point is just like, I don't know. I don't know. Probably a miss. And then he's going to try and get an offensive rebound because he's going to immediately follow because he's great about that. He runs right after his shot. But, like, I don't know.
I think James makes some bigger shots and like bigger moments. Like he's more of a clutch shooter maybe, but Vescovy is definitely overall the better shooter. I don't think
the first time Vescovy gets a clean look from the top of the key, it will be the first time in about 18 months as well, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way the teams are defending him to run him off the 3-point line. And the fact that he hit 100 3-pointers last season is an accomplishment that should not be looked over or glossed over. And it's being more than glossed over on the Chase Thomas podcast.
37% right now for Josiah Jordan James, Ryan Schumpert. 37%. Do you know what Vescovy is shooting right now?
He was at 32, I believe, before the Ole Miss game, and he went 4 of 7. He goes maybe even 3 of 7.
He went 3 of 7.
So I'm guessing he's a little bit, 33% maybe.
He's at 33% exactly. That's a good call.
Math guy.
That guy.
Many forget Ryan Schumpert minored in math at the University of Tennessee.
75% from 3 the last 2 games. So, and again, like, people were texting me, I guess it would have been after Arizona, during the Arizona game, because he didn't shoot well during that game, and, worried about it. It's like, to me, he's just too good a shooter. He's not going to stay in this cold stretch forever. He's been really good shooting the ball the last 2 games. He was the best player on the court in Oxford 2 nights ago, largely due to what he could do at 3-point line, and largely due to how hard Ole Miss was trying to drive him off the 3-point line, the way he was able to score off the basket off that. So, I guess I'm just kind of rambling at this point. But we haven't talked much about the Ole Miss game. Vescovy was incredible for the second straight year against the Rebels. I would probably even go Tyreek Key over Josiah, but that one's tight. That one's tight. And I do think everything you're saying about Tennessee's offense, it being a big boost of having Josiah, I think for the most part, that's all accurate. Though I don't think if you just throw Josiah in Tuesday night against Mississippi State, it's going to radically change the offense because he hasn't had the reps. But if you had a healthy Josiah, I do think your point is valid. That would go a long way for helping this offense.
Jack.
Yes.
What can the good folks check out from you over at Omaha Productions, over at Rocky Top Insider, everywhere else? You're all over the place.
Yeah, of course. Especially Rocky Top Insider tonight, Orange Bowl coverage. Rick Butler now will have full stuff. Ryan as well, over at RockyTopInsider.com. All socials at Rocky Top Insider. And then if you want to support the show I produce, it's Greg McElroy's Always College Football. Runs Monday through Friday, about 35 to 45 minutes an episode. We have interviews. We have a lot of fun. And it's you can find it on ESPN College Football YouTube and also on social media at AlwaysCFB. Also give us an email if you want. We'll answer your question. AlwaysCollegeFootball@gmail.com. So that's it. Those 2 things. That's the big things.
There you go. What's a Greg McElroy fact that would surprise people that he'd be okay with you sharing right now? Don't get fired, Jack.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot, but I just don't know which one to pick. Okay, well, he grew up a Longhorns fan, and then he beat the Longhorns in the Natty. That's really interesting.
That is good.
And he's still kind of a Texas fan. His mother's side's a Florida State fan, so he in his heart, he's always going to kind of be partial to the Seminoles and the Longhorns, and now, of course, the Tide. But yeah, I guess that's the fun fact. I'll leave it at that for now.
There you go. Is he a coffee guy or no? Does he wake up and just pound like the Dan Campbell, just espressos? How is he getting through it?
He does drink coffee, but I wouldn't call him a coffee guy. An interesting thing about Greg is before we tape, he wants to have we usually do it on his terms, but he's always like, hey, give me 30 minutes. And then he just runs in that 30-minute block, he just runs miles, 2.5, 3 miles. He'd just go hard. And then he'd come in, he's all sweaty and he's like, now I'm ready. And you're like, all right, let's go. You're like, start it as soon as you can because Greg's amped up right now. Let's not waste this. And he just rips. So after a run is when McElroy is always the most entertaining. There's also when he is it's always, I don't want to say mean, but he's always kind of crude to the producers in a fun way. He's always messing with us. So after post-run McElroy is the best McElroy you're going to get. That's a fun fact.
I love that. Maybe that's what I've been missing. Is I need to start running before all these pods. I need to do that.
Gets the blood pumping for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. I love that. Ryan, what about you? What can the good folks check out from you this week?
Yeah, I'll have stuff on the Orange Bowl tonight from back in Nashville, but Jack and Rick will have all the good stuff for us live down in Miami, and then plenty of stuff on the basketball team from opening SEC play at Ole Miss. We'll have stuff looking ahead towards Mississippi State, and should have a Jemai Meshack feature story sometime later next week ahead of South Carolina. So that one will be a good one to check out. Probably, right around a week from now.
There you go. You heard it here first. Josiah Jordan James, the best shooter on Tennessee's basketball team, and also Joe Milton in the Tennessee Volunteers. Just destroy the Clemson Tigers on the road tonight in Miami in the Orange Bowl. That's how things go. And we all agree unanimously on this podcast, and that's what we love. Jack, Ryan, thank you as always, and I will talk to you all both very soon.